Hello, High Rock campers. This is Tim Hall in Johnson City. Just want to say I'm sorry that you can't be up at High Rock Bible Camp for this spring retreat. I've spent many days and nights there in the past, and I know what a beautiful place it is, but made much more beautiful by Christian fellowship. But we're dealing with this coronavirus that's been going around now for a while. It is better that we stay apart for a time, and hopefully before too long we'll be able to get back up to High Rock and enjoy all the fun and all the learning and just the joy of being together. But we're here for this weekend virtual retreat, and I'm honored to be asked to share with you on the theme, I love to tell the story. An exquisite specimen of handwriting, I recognize, but I'm trying to be humble about it. But I'm really honored to be asked to share a few minutes with you. One of my favorite passages in all of the Bible, likely, almost definitely, one that has transformed my life more than others. I'm going to read, first of all, the passage, and then I'm going to go around some other places and share with you some things that will help bring out why it's so important. I'm going to read from Matthew 22, Matthew chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 37 and 38. And you know this passage really well. In fact, we even have a song that says what we're going to read here. But Jesus had been asked by one of the lawyers, what is the great commandment? And that was a tricky question, he thought, because the Jews counted something like 613 different laws in the law of Moses. If you're going to pick out one out of all those, it better be a good one. Well, Jesus did. Here's what he says in Matthew 22, verses 37 and 38. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And of course, he had more to say, but we're going to focus on that. Loving the Lord with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind. Now, this agrees very much with the first of the 10 commandments. In fact, the first couple that we're going to look at. And I want to share that with you right now. This is found in Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. And we're going to read verses 1 through 5. Verses 1 through 5. And here Moses has been up on the mountain. He has received the tablets of stone on which are written the 10 commandments. So here we are. God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Now, that is, according to some counts, the first 2 commandments. Others say that it's really all part of the first. But the point is, God was telling his people, don't have any other gods before you. Now, we know there are cultures, there have been cultures in the past and still are, where idolatry is a major problem. In fact, I brought one to show you in this session. This is a Buddha, and I know you probably can't see it very well. It came from a friend who lives in India, native of India, who is a preacher of the gospel there, a very faithful Christian. And several years ago, probably 30 years ago, he brought this to me, and it has its own little shrine. I believe it's supposed to be the Buddha. And anyway, the point is, there are people who bow down to that. Now, that happens to have been sitting on a shelf up high in my office. It's been in the same place for a long time. And you know what? It's never spoken to me. It's never demanded anything of me. It's never done anything for me. And yet there are millions of people in the world that will bow down and worship something that human hands have made. And we find that really incredible. But let's not be too quick to judge. I brought another idol to show you that may ring true with a few of you, but the basic concept we can all understand. This is another idol that I have that sits on a low shelf in my office. And if you know me well at all, you know that I'm a fan of the Kentucky Wildcats. It's true, I'm not a Tennessee Volunteer fan or Virginia Tech Hokies. I like the Kentucky Wildcats. But I realize there is that great possibility that I could actually worship that I could put more time and energy into following a basketball team than I do what's really important in life. So I've got to keep in mind there is one God that I serve and no other. And there's other examples. I brought this to share with you. It is a walking stick. It was made for me many years ago by a man named Isaac Hoover. If you know Shane Hoover, that has been the preacher at the Greenville Church of Christ, his father is the one that made this for me. And I love the bird on top, a bluebird, a wren. It's probably a wren. And I love to get outdoors. I like to take hikes. I like to just get lost in the woods. Not literally lost, but I like to get out in the woods. But that too can become a god. We can spend a lot more time doing that than we should. And here's another example of what could become an idol. This is a photo of my family. It's an old photo. There's been a couple more added since then. But the point is, I love my family. I would love to spend more time with them. They're all in Nashville now. But again, that could become a snare to me, and I could spend more time serving them than I do God. And by the way, here's one more that I'll show you. And you know what that is, of course. Something we don't have nearly enough of, we often say. It's money. This is a dollar bill, but wow, wouldn't we like to have a $100 bill or a $1,000 bill? But you remember, this represents covetousness. And in Colossians 3, verse 5, Paul says that covetousness is idolatry. So again, I've got to keep reminding myself there's a lot of things in this world I could love to the point that I'm giving it all of my attention and just putting other things to the side. I can't let that happen. Because remember, Jesus said, Matthew 22, verses 37 and 38, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. A man named Augustine, many years ago, made this statement. He said, love God and do what you like. And a lot of people at first say, wait a minute, that's not right. But it really is. Because if I love God the way Jesus commands me to love God, then the things I like to do are the things that God tells me to do. And so if I love the Lord our God with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, my life will be fashioned according to his will. Now, one other quick question. Why would I want to do that? I mean, we live in America, the land of the independent spirit. We're free. We get to do what we want to do, right? So why should I turn my life over to God? Well, there's a lot that can be said on that, but let me just take you to one other passage, 1 John chapter 4. 1 John chapter 4, and he sums up a whole lot of things in these few words. 1 John 4, beginning in verse 16. John says, so we have come to know and to believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. By this, love is perfected with us, so that we may have confidence for the day of judgment, because as he is, so also are we in this world. In other words, we want to be like him. We're making him our model, the one that we mold our lives after. And then he goes on in verse 18, there is no fear in love, But perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. We love because he first loved us. That says it all, doesn't it? We love God because we have come to know how much God has loved us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And when I really understand what Jesus did for me and why God sent his Son to die for me, I love him. And when I love him with all my heart, my soul, my mind, then I'm going to live the life I should. Be motivated by love. Don't be motivated by fear. I mean, that's a good motivation in the beginning, but the more you get to know God, the less you fear him if you're living for him, and the more you love him. What a blessing it is to be together in this virtual way and to share these few moments together. I'm so thankful for High Rock Bible Camp. I'm so thankful for the church in this area. I'm thankful for you. And hopefully we'll get to see each other in person before much longer. Thanks for sharing this time with me. May God bless you and yours.